I was very, I came from a very low base. And eventually I got my act together, and now I create courses and I have a blog and tips to help my fellow editors. So I went freelance in 2009, and that was a huge motivation to work faster while maintaining quality, because I suddenly realized that instead of having a salary, I'd suddenly got to earn my own money, and it was quite a shock to the system. So I really focused on tools back at that time. And I think 3 of the tools I talk about today I've been using since then. So I'm going to talk about PhraseExpress, PerfectIt, Editor's Toolkit Plus, and Pro Writing Aid. So, Linda, shall we have the poll now? I can't hear you. Oh, you're muted.
Let me see where the poll went, because I just had it here. Oh, this is what happens when you get nervous. Let me see. Okay, it's not popping up for me here.
Don't worry. Don't worry. I was just
let's ask the question. Hilary wanted to know if you have used any of these tools. If none of these tools, if you don't mind popping in the chat your answer or which ones it is that you use. And Hilary, I will share the chat with you afterwards too, in case that helps as well.
okay.
So we see PerfectIt, Pro Writing Aid, PWA, and PerfectIt.
Oh, that's interesting. Okay. None. Oh, well, you're in for a treat if you're not using any of them.
I don't use PhraseExpress. I didn't know about it, but I do use Text Expander, the Text Expander brand. And I'm excited to learn about Editor's Toolkit Plus, because I've heard so much about it, but never used it either.
Okay. Okay, right, that's great. Thank you. That's fine. Okay, well, we'll go back. So we'll go back to this. So for each of those tools, I'll talk about what it is, what it does, how and when you might use it, and the pros and cons. You've got the notes that cover the 4 tools. They also give you details of the programs, where you can get them from, and what training materials I offer related to those. So we'll start with PhraseExpress, because this is something I think everybody should have. So PhraseExpress is a text expander. So confusingly, as Linda mentioned, there's another one called Text Expander. But basically, a text expander is something that turns a snippet of text, a little bit of text, into something longer. And the good thing about it, compared to something like Word's autocorrect, is that it works across programs. So, press the wrong button. So now I'll do a demonstration. Save that and my Word document, PhraseExpress. Okay, so what I use PhraseExpress for is things like frequently used text. So if I type in WX and then press enter, it turns into my email address. It's lovely. I've got another one, say, for my home address. So it works in Word. I'll just show you in an email. So in program. Right. So if I'm writing an email, when I sign off, I tend to misspell my own name. So I use CHX and it turns into Cheers Hilary. And then I don't have my signature appearing automatically. I just put it on when I feel it's needed. And I type SIG and it turns into my signature with the links. So you can have formatted text in it. So that's a really useful thing. I'll just get rid of that. So how do you do this? Well, what you do is type in a phrase. So suppose I put networking studio. If I want to make that phrase in PhraseExpress, then I copy it. And then there's a little button down here, and I can open PhraseExpress and I can go new phrase. And it should open a window, which I can't see. Let's see if I can see. There's the window. And I type in a shortcut. So I might put NWSX and I say, okay. And then it's made me a shortcut. My Word document on. And now when I type NWSX, it turns into Networking Studio. So that's how easy it is. And then there's a shortcut that I can use to get there quicker. And I've saved that as a picture. So that's another thing that I've got as a snippet. So you can save text, you can have formatted text, and you can have pictures. So for example, if you use your logo a lot, you could make a shortcut for it. So when I press Control-Alt-C, if I were to highlight Networking Studio and go Control-Alt-C, then it comes up with that little box straight away. So that's a quicker way to do it than faffing around with the, because what I used to find is, even though this saves you a load of time, I didn't like stopping my work to go through a lot of fiddly things to make a shortcut. But now I've got that shortcut to make a shortcut, then I use it much more often. So I use it for text that I use a lot. And then I work mostly in medical editing. So for organizations and technical terms, it's great. So for example, I have shortcuts for WHO, for the OECD, for the FAO, and for the OIE, which is no longer called that, it's called the WOAH. So I have shortcuts for all those organizations. And what that means is that I don't have to remember that WHO takes a Z, that OECD takes an S, that the World Organization for Animal Health takes an S, and so on, that there's a hyphen in the OECD. I put them in correctly, and then I can use them and be confident in them. So it saves me time and gives me confidence that I'm getting things right. And so I would have it for all sorts of medical terms like HIV, or I work in evidence-based medicine, so like the grading of recommendations, assessment, development, and evaluations, and I've put that in correctly. For years, I thought there was a comma after recommendations. It turns out there's not. So now I've got that in correctly. So once you've got those terms in, then they're very easy to use. So whatever you're working on, if you find yourself using a term a lot, then it's worth making a shortcut for.
Julia's asking if PhraseExpress is style sensitive. Like, can you paste a phrase in italics? I'm assuming that you can, right?
Yeah. Yes, you can. Yes, you can format. So in the same way that my signature came up with links in it, you can save it as plain text or formatted text. So there's a lot of options when you save it. So now, suppose I'm editing. Suppose this is some text that I'm editing, and I look at it and I decide that these bullet points don't need to be bullet points. They should be don't need to be numbered. They should just be bullet points. Then I'd turn them into bullet points. And usually when I'm working, I don't have formatting changes tracked. So instead, what I'd do is make that change. Then I'd put in a comment to the author, and I'd put num X. And it turns into best to avoid letters or numbers unless points are in order of importance or are steps in a process. So I've made a shortcut for that because it's something I do a lot. Then the first time I changed a numbered list to a bullet, I'd put that in, and then suppose I'm tracking changes. Suppose I decide to delete the word very. So I delete it, and then I want to explain to the client why I've deleted that. So again, I put in a comment and I type very, and I say best to avoid subjective terms such as very. And then suppose I've looked at this and I'm not sure the second sentence, I might not be sure what the it means. I might say the structure, and I think that's what they mean. And then I want them to check that. So I'd put in a comment, and this time I'd say, please check edit original unclear. So I have a whole set of comments like that I can put in any time. And you know, I could have ones about missing references and that sort of thing. So it means that your comments are always like nice and clearly written for repetitive comments, that they're nice and clear and whatever. So I'll come out of that and go.
That's really such a time saver, especially for some of us that we work on long manuscripts and we're having to say, like Hilary was saying, a repetitive comment that you need the author to address or to think about it or to check the original. Setting these up beforehand is helpful, but if you need to set them up on the go because you're noticing that you can always set them up on the go and then start incorporating them in your manuscript. Hilary, do you mind if may I ask you, this is a separate program that you purchase, I'm assuming, like I know that TextExpander, I pay like an annual fee.
Yes, I'll mention that when I do the pros and cons.
Perfect.
So when do I use it? I use it all the time, because whenever I'm working, I'll be commenting, or when I'm writing emails. So this is probably the tool. If you do nothing else today, get PhraseExpress or TextExpander. So the pros are, it's very user friendly. It saves you time. I think it improves quality because your comments will be really nicely written, where you use repetitive ones. And you can, especially for things like organization names, you can know they're correct. Your snippets do have to be memorable. You might have noticed mine all have an X on the end. If they're not memorable and you can't call them to hand just like that, then they don't really work. And it does have advanced features that are less user friendly. Now, you can get this. I've put the link in for you to look for this. So it used to be that TextExpander was for Mac and PhraseExpress was for PC. Now they both do versions for both, and they're both equally good, I think. What was I going to say? Oh, you can get PhraseExpress for free, and then you can, it's not a subscription, you buy it outright, and then you can maybe upgrade if they improve it. But basically you can use it for free, and it just comes up with a message that says that if you're using it professionally, you should be paying for it. So yeah, I'd get started, and so the free version has all the capability, so you won't lose anything. So I do have a subscription to it, but I bought a 3-year subscription, which gives me automatically the new versions when it upgrades. But yeah, for a couple of years I was using it. When I first discovered it, I was using it for free.
Hilary, one of the questions in the chat is, and I've had this before too, how do you remember the codes for all the different expanded bits?
So everything would be something that I can remember. So WX for my email is work email, is for work email. So usually I'd have something, a word that would mean something to me, like I know my where I've changed numbered list to bulleted, it's numX, because I know I'm changing numbers. So you just have to kind of think what will be a meaningful thing, and you build them up over time. So I've probably got 100 shortcuts. What I'll do is, if I'm working on something, I'll think, you know, say they mention some disease, I might type in what I think would be my shortcut with an X on the end and see if it turns into that or not. And sometimes it does, and sometimes I have to go in and make it anew. So I wouldn't remember them all in my head. It would just be that there's something that so you need a system for it. So my system is to use, say for organizations, the abbreviation for the organization plus an X on the end. What you want to avoid is having a snippet that will appear in other text that you might type inadvertently, and you're typing away and suddenly some text leaps into what you're writing because you've suddenly typed.
That's definitely happened to me in the past, for sure, with a bit of text shows up in an email that had no business being there. But if I can add to that, Catherine, since you asked the question, might be a really good exercise to share with your mastermind group, where everybody can share what snippets they use, maybe in TextExpander or in PhraseExpress, because the beautiful thing about this is that we can all have the same snippet, the same coding for the snippet. There's no copyright issues on this, where we can all share the same snippet and use it differently in the way that we do our own work. So that might be something too that we can address, maybe have a session at the next networking studio group coaching session. We can kind of share what snippets we all use. And maybe we do a little snippet exchange or a PhraseExpress exchange.
That sounds like a really good idea. Yeah, I think if you do nothing else, get a TextExpander, because it will, you can save whole screeds of text. If there's something you put in an email a lot, that's another thing. When I write an email, when I'm sending an invoice, I have something that I just press THX and it goes, thank you for the opportunity to work on this interesting project, and I look forward to working with you in future. So yeah, things like that. You can have you can have whole pages of text. There's no limit on how big a thing you can make a snippet for.
Yeah.
Okay.
I was just thinking too, like you could even post your resume, because there is no length to the comment. So if you're applying to EFA jobs constantly, and you're always applying to the same kind of job, you could even just have a snippet that's your resume if you have to upload it to a client site. So little things like that. But anyways, let's keep going, Hilary.
Okay. Okay, now I'll talk about PerfectIt. So PerfectIt started life as a consistency checker. It was actually the guy who created it, Daniel Human. He was working in finance and he got fed up with getting reports that were inconsistent. So he created a consistency checker to improve the quality of reports. He didn't make it for editors, and then editors turned out to really like it. And then he added style sheets, so they pick up inconsistencies and deviations from style. I'll do a quick demonstration. So I'll get out of here and get my Word document. So test. There it is. So here's a document, and I'm on a PC, so I use PerfectIt 6. And I just go launch PerfectIt 6. And it pops up here. Oh, and I'm going to go, so at its most basic, it just comes up with check consistency. And it's got this big button saying start. So for those of you who haven't used it, this is the most user-friendly of programs. So you just press start. And what it does is it starts running through tests, and it stops when it finds an issue. So it's running through some things, and it's found the word. So here we're just looking for consistency. And what's lovely about it is it tells you why it stopped. So it says hyphenation of words, a word or phrase appears with and without a hyphen. And the other good thing is that you have complete control. So you can choose, I want socioeconomic without a hyphen, or you can choose to have it with a hyphen. So let's say we don't want the hyphen, so we choose our preferred one. Just pull it up a bit. Is socioeconomic, no hyphen, and we just press fix, and it fixes it. And you can see straight away over here on the right in your document that it's been fixed. So it's very, very, very easy to use. Some of you who've used it might not know that because it's sort of, some of the features of it are buried, which is partly why I created a course about it. That if you press function F6, it brings up this keyboard input. So there, instead of having to go to next, you can just press N on your keyboard and then it will start finding the next thing. And so this is an Australian document. It's found centers 7 times with the RE spelling and once with the ER. So we want the RE spelling. So here I can say fix all, and it asks me, are you sure? Because there's no undo all in the PerfectIt 6. If you're using PerfectIt for the Mac, the cloud version, it does have an undo all. So I say, first I say do not show again because it's really annoying. And then I say fix all, and it will fix those things. And then I can still use so the keyboard shortcuts are N for next, A for fix all, and F for fix. So I press next. It's really useful. It says common typos. These words are frequently misspelled. So it's found pubic health instead of public health. And obviously we want to fix that to make it public health. And then I press N to go on to the next one. So it does a whole range of things. It's a really good program. And here it's found an abbreviation that's been defined here, and then it's used later on in full. So we press fix. So PerfectIt knows what the abbreviation is because it's been used later. So we just press fix and it fixes that. And then you press fix and there it just uses the abbreviation. Now I think PerfectIt is worth it for this feature alone. It's such a nice, useful feature. So then I'll press next. If it finds an abbreviation that hasn't been spelled out anywhere, then it gives you an option for writing in the full name. One thing I really like is it does headings. So here it's found that most of the headings are in sentence case, and this particular heading is capped. So press fix and it will make it sentence case. It's found a missing bracket. Now there it won't do anything about it. You have to go in and change it. And the minute you start working on the text, then it loses the keyboard input. You have to press F6 to put it back, or you can just carry on pressing the button. And then it's found a set of bullet points where there's an inconsistency. So you could decide, I'll have a semicolon, because you could look at the list above and say, yeah, there's more semicolons than not, so I'll fix that. So you can see it's very user-friendly. You're making the decisions. It's explaining what it's doing. You can see the changes you've made. And then it gets to its, this is for sort of tidying up formatting, like updating the table of contents, the cross-references, converting multiple spaces to one. I don't use any of these things, and these things I do because usually when I'm working with PerfectIt, I've got track changes turned on, and I don't want to do most of these things with track changes, so I don't do them. This other thing, it will make you a table of abbreviations. You can just say run, and it finds all the abbreviations in the document, which is great. And then you can copy that, use that as the beginnings of your abbreviations list. I don't ever use the summary of changes. This document hasn't got comments, but I do use the compile table of compile text in comments. So it would, here it didn't find any comments, but I use that to get a set of comments, and then I turn them into a table to send to the client. So that's the basics of it. And now I'll open my other document.
So from an efficiency perspective, for those of you that aren't using PerfectIt yet, we had somebody ask if it's available for Mac, and I believe Mac, it's on the cloud right now. It's not, you can't download it, but even if it's on the cloud from an efficiency perspective, the amount of time that you save on menial tasks, and it's just a really great tool to have to clean up a document before you even start working on it. And like Hilary was showing you, you can choose what checks to run. You don't have to run all the checks. You can choose, if you only want to clean up, sometimes I'll go in and clean up spaces, spaces after a period or before, just extra spaces in the document. You can do that. So it really you have all the power to control what you want to run and when you want to run those tests. The comment feature, I never use that, Hilary. What a great idea. I have a project due tomorrow that I'm gonna go and do that the minute we finish this call. I'm gonna run my
okay. I'll send you a little summary of how I use that, because it's annoying how it comes out, but it's a good feature. So now I'll show you what would happen if I use the style sheet. So I'm going to go in here, and there's a whole set of style sheets. So there's spellings, Australian, Canadian, US and UK. There's different styles. I haven't got CMOS listed here. I think, I don't know, maybe I took it out by mistake. I never use it. But if you subscribe to CMOS, you can now get a style sheet that PerfectIt actually links to the style guide, and so it's incredible. I've got a little video about that I could share if anyone's interested afterwards, explaining how that works. So for now, I'm going to choose Australian government style because this is an Australian document. So I press start. So this is exactly the same document. And again, it's going to run through its tests. And now it's come up with socio-economic. But here, because it's got a style sheet, which is based on the dictionary we use here, Merriam-Webster, then it tells me the preferred style is socio-economic. So because I'm using a style sheet, I don't have to think, oh, do I want it with a hyphen or not? I can just go, oh, right, the style is this, and I fix it. So then it will find centers as before. I'll just say fix all. Show fix all. And I'll go next. In fact, I won't stop and fix things going through. I'll just show you what it does. So now it's found deviations from Australian spelling. So before it didn't pick this up because it was consistent within the document. Now it's picked up optimization when we'd spell it with an S. Same with optimizing, we'd spell that with an S. So it tells me my preferred style. Summarizing, it should have an S. So I'd fix all these things, utilize, I'd actually stop and change that to use. But it's telling me it should be S. So I could have a style sheet that was set up to say, when it finds utilize, it should say use. Now, this is the one I really like, is that, so I work on a lot of technical documents. So the preferred style is a non-breaking space here. So if I said fix all, it will put non-breaking spaces in the numbers with 5 digits or more, and 4 digits it just puts with no space. So this saves an enormous amount of time. Then it's found the pubic health again. So it's still doing the tests it found last time, but it's added on a whole load of things, of deviations from the style. It's found that abbreviation again. And yeah, we don't have, in Australian style, we don't have a set thing about whether things should be kept or not in headings. But we do tend not to use the Oxford comma, so it's picked up all the sentences where there's an Oxford comma and said, I don't think you want these. And again, you can go through and fix these and choose whether or not you fix them. So it's picked up a lot of additional things, plus all the things it found last time. So it's really greatly increased the power of the tool, and our preferred style in Australia is no punctuation. So that makes it really easy to fix. So it would find both those sets of bullet points, and I could fix them both. So it's a really fantastic tool. I've been using this since 2009, and still when I run it on a long document, I think, wow, that's amazing. So
it is.
yeah.
And I'm going to add to that, if possible, Hilary. Adam, I know that you had a question in the chat that I think I might have answered, but one of the strengths about PerfectIt is also that you can build your own checks. So when I edit memoir, a lot of the times I try to have the client use what's the word? Okay, now it's escaped. Contractions, a lot of contractions. And so I can just I can customize for each project a specific, checklist of what I want it to run, or I can create like Linda's memoir style sheet so that when I edit a client's work, it's using CMOS, Merriam-Webster. I can pick and choose all the things. And it just eliminates those menial tasks of me having to think about it when I'm, running it with a memoir project.
That's great. Yes, so you can see that adding a style sheet makes PerfectIt so much more powerful. When do I use it? I use it at the start of a job. What happens is I really like to get started on the editing. I don't want to back around with tools. So I start editing, and then I get to a bit where, say, the client has used the word healthcare as one word, and the style is healthcare, 2 words, never with a hyphen. So I think, oh, right, if they've done it once, they've done it lots of times. So I force myself to stop work and run PerfectIt, because I know that, so it interrupts my flow of work, but I know that it will save me huge amounts of time in the long run. So I stop and I run it, because I work on quite long documents, that it finds a load of things and I think, oh, this is taking ages, but it's saving me a vast amount of time that would be really annoying to do manually. So it's really fantastic. And then we run it at the end of a job to just see anything we've missed. And then I run it after major changes, or for example, a client will send something back and say, like late in the piece, and say, oh, I haven't made many changes, and they may not have tracked everything, and I run PerfectIt and I think, oh, they've made loads of changes, and then I do a compare version and find out where they have actually made changes. But it just alerts me to the fact that they might have made changes that they've forgotten to track changes and have
Hilary, Adam is asking if it can query or make a list, for example, the way it does of the acronyms, can it make a list of, and you might know this or not, foreign language words?
Yes, well, you can put anything in the style sheet. So if you've got the PC version, you can put things in the style sheet.
Perfect.
So I'll mention that here. So it's you can see how user-friendly it is, because you just press start. So it does save you an enormous amount of time. I think it improves quality because it does all those things for you. You've then got time to like spend more time on the document, on what it's actually saying, rather than faffing about fixing spellings and non-breaking spaces in numbers and so on. It's got fabulous tech support. It is an ongoing cost. Some people don't like it that now it's a subscription model, but they have to make their money sometime, and they're always improving it. The Mac version at the moment is the cloud one. It can be slow, and so in the PC version, you can create and modify style sheets, and you can mix style sheets together and all sorts of things. But in the Mac version, you can't do that, which is quite a disadvantage, I think. And you need a really good internet connection for it. And it can't do, because of the way the Mac's set up, it can't do some of those things. I think it can't do the numbers, the non-breaking spaces in the numbers. But if you've got the PC version, you can go in and put whatever you like in the style sheet. So yes, it's such a worthwhile program. I really think it's fantastic.
Worth every penny, absolutely.
Oh, now we'll do a little stretch. Right.
And I will mention for everyone, Hilary, it's 7 a.m. Well, 7:40 a.m. where Hilary's at in Australia, correct? Yes?
Yes, it's 7:40. Yes, I need a stretch.
She got up super early so she could be here with us today. So Appreciate it so much.
I'm not normally an early riser. So. Okay, so Editor's Toolkit Plus. Now this is another one that I really like. So it's a set of macros to speed up your work, and some of them on the ribbon and some are on the keyboard. So I'll do a demonstration. So I come out of there. Editor's Toolkit Plus. There's my Editor's Toolkit Plus. Okay, so here's a document. It's very short. Right, but this is typical of, I'll put the thing on. So this is typical of things that I get, that it's a bit of a mess. There's double spaces, treble spaces all over the place. There's extra returns. It's just a muddle. So it's only a page, but it's not much. So what I do is I go into, I'm going to turn on track changes. So you can see that track changes is turned on, there's tracking appearing. So I go into Editor's Toolkit Plus and I go to File Cleaner and I go to Fix Tabs, Spaces and Returns, and I go Fix Double Spaces. And it fixes them all, and it hasn't tracked that. So I've got it, so by default, it doesn't track that. You could track it if you wanted, but by default, it doesn't track that change, even though I've got track changes turned on. And then I go under that same thing, I say delete space around returns, and it tidies it up. And then I go fix double returns. And again, it doesn't track any of that. So now I've got much more tidy looking document with all that fixed without it being tracked. And then another thing I use under that is fix dashes. So if we just look at this table, you can see it's all over the place, things missing and hyphens between the spans of numbers. So I go here, I go turn hyphens between numbers to an end dash. And again, it doesn't track that. So it won't do these ones where there was a space there. I'd have to do those manually if there was a space before or after the hyphen. But otherwise, so in a big table, it might have done most of them, but we'll just have missed a couple. So this saves an enormous amount of time and you don't have to worry about it being tracked. So I use that all the time. Then there's a thing called Note Stripper. You can just go to Home and turn off that. Editor's Toolkit Plus. So you can see that the notes are inside the punctuation, and I suppose the style is to have them outside. Then you can go swap notes and punctuation, and again it won't track that, and it'll say finished, which is good. You don't want to be tracking when you're moving numbers around like that. And there they are, all outside the punctuation. So this is just so good. It's really saved you so much time. So there's also the word counter, which is fabulous. So it will count words and it will say, what would you like to count? And you can say words include footnotes and endnotes. And then it says, which documents would you like to use? And you can do all documents in a folder. So, and then it gives you a little report. I won't do it now, but it gives you a report of the document name and the number of words. So I often work on a project that's, say, 50,000 words, but it comes in lots of little documents, and I can put them all in one folder as the originals, and then I can say to the client, oh, you know, you've sort of sent me 30,000 words already by using this word counter. It's just fantastic. It's really useful. So that's all I use on here. If you did things like, most of the things over here, I think are easier done with shortcuts. So I don't use these things. But what I do use is, and then he's got some things for putting from Word document to design, and I don't do any of that. So there's a lot of it I don't use, but the bits I do use, I really like. So suppose I come here and I want to capitalize institute bacterial and studies. I can put my cursor anywhere in the word institute, and I press F9 and it capitalizes. I'll hide the track changes. But you can see it's tracking that. I've got it set to track that. Then I press F10 and it leaps to the next word. F10 is lowercase and F9 is cap. So it caps bacterial and it caps studies. So I use that all the time because then you don't have to highlight that and it tracks it. So it's really good. And then there's a similar one for italics. I can press F8 and it will italicize that word and leap to the next word.
Excellent.
So I don't have to drag my mouse because if you work on the computer all day, it's so easy to get an RSI. So it's really good. So I use those keys all the time, and then I use the so I've got track changes showing. If I press the F4 key, the changes are hidden. So I use that all the time. And then another one I use is Control Shift F7, and that splits the document. So and that splits it back. So I'll just show you that when you get the program, it comes with this keyboard template, and you're supposed to, oops, that's my one, sorry, comes with this keyboard template, and you're supposed to, so it's 12 things, the 12 function keys along here, and then they're either used on their own or with shift, with control, or with shift and control. So you're supposed to cut along this dotted line, paste it on your desktop and learn these 48 shortcuts. Well, really impossible. So here's what I use out of those 48. So I just use the F4 to hide or track, and I use these italics, F7 or F8, and then I use the cap word and the lowercase word because they're just so useful that they leap from word to word. And I use the split window. So there's others there, like you can toggle track changes on and off with F2, but there's only so many things you can hold in your head, and these are enough for me. So that's how I use it. So I'll go back to my presentation. So that was the demonstration. When do I use it? I use it at the start of a job to tidy up. So the first thing I do when I open a document is run that, because it takes no time at all, and it just tidies up all those messy little extra returns and things. And then I use it all the time while I'm working to cap and lowercase things, put things in italics, hide the track changes, and so on. So it saves an enormous amount of time. It's more user-friendly than it used to be. He's done a nice job of the toolbar now. The tech support is mixed because it's just one guy. It's Jack Lyon, a guy in America, and he's lovely, but he's just working on his own. So, but you can get this for 45 days for free, and it's really worth trying out. It does come with about 126 pages of instructions, but you can just get started with it and use a few of the features. It's worth it.
That tool of being able to hop from word to word, I've seen another colleague of ours do that a lot, and what I like about it is that it eliminates the possibility of me introducing an error into the document, because it's hopping directly and doing that for me. Hilary, so are those F keys, like once you choose how you're going to use them, do I need to open Editor's Toolkit? Do I need to have it open in Word?
So they're set. If you ever wanted to, when you set up the program, you choose to put them in, and you can now take them off and put them back in at any time. It's really easy to do. It used to be really difficult, but now it's really easy.
Great.
So I'll just quickly, oh, no, I'll go back to that. Okay, so I'll just quickly show you Pro Writing Aid. We won't do long on this. So I don't actually use Pro Writing Aid, but I've tried it a few times, and I know some people find it good. So their own blurb says it's a grammar checker, a style editor, and a writing mentor. And I've tried this and Grammarly, and I find this much better. So, oh, sorry, I meant to show you something else. Yeah, so there's a free version online where you can do up to 500 words, and then you can have a subscription version where you can load things online, or you can have it as an add-in to your desktop, just the same as PerfectIt or Editor's Toolkit Plus. And it also works with other programs like Scrivener and Google Docs. So that's an advantage of it. So I'll do a quick demonstration. So I've got a document here. So this is a little blog post. Now, I'm a very good editor and a really terrible writer. So I did modify this a little bit, but not much for the purposes of this exercise. So I can paste that in, and it will ask me if I want formatting, but I don't. So what it does is immediately it works like a word spelling and grammar. It will pick up misspelling of various, and it will pick up now have lot when it should be lots. So it picks up that straight away, but where it comes into its own is things like overused words. So it will show me that I've used that. What I like about it is that it's nice and gentle. It says that you may have overused this phrase compared to published writing. Consider removing about 3 occurrences from 6. So it's not bullying you to take it out. You know, it's not saying you're wrong. It's just gently suggesting it. So you can see I've got a lot of overused words. Echoes is another one I'm terrible at. So this is something about editing, but I've used the word. I've got 10 close repeats. This is only in about 400. I think it's only in about 250 words, and so it's always pushing you to get the premium version to pay for it. But this is the free version, and it's giving you quite a lot of stuff. And I'll just show you that under settings, you can choose all sorts of Englishes, British, US, Australian, whatever. And under the document type, there's masses of different types of documents. Like you could go to business and choose case study, cover letter, business book, whatever. I've chosen short web article for this, but for a free program, this seems pretty amazing to me. So it shows me so I'll go back to the reports. It will tell me about my sentence length. It shows me where I've got rather long sentences. I can look at my readability. It's telling me this document's hard to read, one very difficult to read paragraph. So so you can get an enormous amount of information just from the free version. So I won't go into it a lot. I'll come out and go back to the presentation. So you can see I think it's a nice product. I came across it because I gave a class on grammar to a writers' centre, and one of the writers there was using it. So I think it's quite good to like I could look at that and think, oh, this blog post needs a lot of revision. So I wouldn't get it to revise it, but I'd probably these days put it in AI and just get that to rewrite it. I know one company here uses it to assess a document for a quote. So they put it into Pro Writing Aid and see how bad it is, and think, yes, this is going to need a lot of work, or they might see it's quite good and think, oh, this is going to be easy. And then you can use it when editing. And I think if I was starting out these days, because I've been doing this for 25 years, I find these kind of tools just slow me down, because they might be picking up things that I would do they miss things that I'd want to fix, and they pick up things that it takes me longer to think, what's it suggesting? do I agree or not? So I'm better without it. But if I was starting out, I think it could be really helpful. I also think if you get an author who's got a who's struggling, maybe you're telling them to be more active, like use less passive voice, and they don't really understand that, they can use a tool like this to assess their writing and get some feedback on it. So I think if I was working, say, with fiction authors, I might suggest to them, and that's how the person who I met was using it, and she was writing a memoir, but she found it really helpful for just working out where her writing could be improved.
Yeah, I think this fact of using it, and one of the things that I thought about when I saw you use it was what a great thing to tell a client, I need a sample of your work, you know, I need a chapter from the middle of your book, and to be able to pop it in there and just to have an idea of what are going to be perhaps the biggest weaknesses in their writing. And
Yeah.
at that point, is it worth for me to work on the project, or do I want to suggest get a free version of Pro Writing Aid and clean the work up first instead, you know, and then we can start editing it. And I agree with you, because I have 2 clients of mine that use Pro Writing Aid, and what tends to happen for them is that they become so comfortable accepting everything Pro Writing Aid tells them that then their voice and tone gets lost. So there's that little bit of balance that you still need to be involved with your client, especially if you're providing like, author coaching services. You can still be involved, but this is a tool that helps them see where they might, these overused words or the passive and the active. One thing is if you tell them, but if there's also a software telling them, then they can see that it's true. It's not just subjective. So.
Okay. So yeah, I think it's user friendly. I think it could improve speed and quality. It's customizable. I haven't tried it for a while, but certainly when I tried it previously, the customization wasn't user friendly. You had to, I think I'd customize it not to pick up passive, and then when I wanted to put it back, I actually had to contact the company, and they had to reset the switch. It was ridiculous. I assume they fixed that by now. You do really need a subscription to get the most of it, and they're like when I tried it the other day for preparation for this, it let me look at the reports once or twice, and then it said you've run out of time for today or something. So it's they're trying to push you to the paid version, but it is relatively cheap. So that in your notes, I've given you the details of the 4 programs and where you can get them. PerfectIt, I think you can have for about a week or 2 weeks for a free trial. ETK Plus you can have for 45 days for a free trial. PhraseExpress, as I mentioned, you can just be using it and they'll just put something on the screen saying you really should be paying for it. And Pro Writing Aid, I think, is about 120 a year. So I've got courses on Word, PerfectIt, and EndNote, and then I've got some webinars on PhraseExpress, Editor's Toolkit, and Pro Writing Aid. I think with PhraseExpress and Pro Writing Aid, you can just get on with them. With the Editor's Toolkit Plus, because it's a bit more complicated, it might be worth doing the webinar if you're interested in using that, because I go deeper into it on that and on how to use it. I think that one is kind of useful, and I've given you a discount code for 30%. So that's it.
Great. This was, incredibly informative. There's so many things I have to do the minute we hang up today. I feel, but questions and you're all welcome to unmute yourselves. You know that these are casual conversations, so feel free to unmute yourselves if you have questions for Hilary.
Thank you so much, Hilary. This is Adrienne. I have wanted to play with PerfectIt, but I work only on Macs. And so I heard from many colleagues that it was a lot more trouble than it was worth to try to mess with the cloud version. And that was probably a year or 2 ago. And I'm wondering the quality of it now.
I haven't tried it recently. Yeah, because you can get it and install it on a PC, even though it's for the Mac. I think they had a big problem with it at one time and people were getting very frustrated. I think they fixed that, and they're also, because they basically had to rewrite it from scratch. What they'd got on a PC didn't transfer to a Mac. They had to start again, and that's why it's so different. And I gather they're working on improving it. It's worth a try. I'd give it a try, because you can have it free for 7 days. Yeah, it's probably worth trying to see how well it's working. I think they had a kind of meltdown with it a while ago.
Yeah, that was, I think, a few years ago. And Adrian, I have a colleague, one of the editors in my mastermind group. She has an old PC laptop. She's on a Mac, but she has an old PC laptop that she has perfected on there. So she will send a document there, run it through Perfect, get it all done, and then keep working on it on, on her Mac. So there are kind of like workarounds, I think, that you, and that, not that I'm suggesting to go buy a new laptop, but if you have an old computer or somebody doesn't know that you can just run Word and PerfectIt, I think that's always a great, backup plan to have. Or like, some of us had to have PCs also have like an old Mac just to test things on. But and then you can always rely on your fellow editors here in this community if you need some kind of test or check or something. I'm sure we could also help with that.
Thank you. I think I will give it a go just to, and Melissa, I saw your note. I'll talk to you about it.
Anybody else? Questions for Hilary?
You're stunned into silence.
Yeah.
Well, maybe just wondering, Hilary, do you, on top of all this stuff, do you also do some of the Paul Beverly type of macros, or you just don't even need them after all these other programs?
To be honest, I don't find I need a lot of macros because so Paul has a lovely macro for creating a set of comments called tabulate comments, I think, and sometimes it works and sometimes it doesn't. So it's a bit of a faff to make so I copy the comments from PerfectIt, put them in a Word document. They come out with spaces between them, so returns between them. So I fix that on Editor's Toolkit Plus. I then turn the text into a table, then I make an extra column, then I put a column at the top. So if his macro would work, if his macro is really much better, but it does all that and more, but it works like 2 out of 3 times, and then so the minute something doesn't work, I kind of lose interest and think, oh, I'll just do it my old way. So I haven't really found that there's a thing I need macros for. I'm working on technical documents, not fiction. So I think there's 1 or 2 that I have used. Oh, I did set up a macro for creating a comment, but now I've just made oh yeah, maybe I know I have a shortcut for adding a comment, and that might be a shortcut that I added to a macro. Yeah, but that's about the only thing I've found. There's not a lot where I've needed it. So I'm good friends with Paul Beverly. He did rescue me when I had a job that needed about 100,000 numbers fixed in 2 days, and with breaking spaces in them. And he wrote macros. He was on holiday and he came off the beach to write macros to do every sort of 4-digit numbers, 5-digit numbers, 6-digit numbers. He was wonderful. But and he gave them to a colleague, and the colleague ran them on the document. Like I didn't have to be involved, but he was really good with that. But mostly I haven't found I need them.
Thank you.
And for everyone, I put Hilary's the notes for the meeting that what she was sharing is in the networking studio in our circle space. The discount code is there. Hilary, I know this is not what we talked about today, but I've taken, I believe, one of your word style webinars, which was just fantastic because it really opened my mind into how to make a document look more professional, make it easier to navigate, whether it be for my clients and now for my internal documents as well, and the stuff that I put out too. So I think for those of you who are starting off or trying to figure out what do I buy of the software, do I need to buy anything? just really focus on who your target clients are right now, or what projects you have lined up or coming up. And then this whole thing that PerfectIt, I think you can use it. Is it a month that you can use it for free or something? They have a period of time also that you can use it. Test it out and see if it works for you. And I would just keep doing that until you find, you don't have to have all of the tools. Eventually you might want to have 2 or 3, because I think they are, in terms of efficiency, anything that's going to save you time so you can focus on more important things is always worth it. And then, with Pro Writing Aid, when you're writing your own marketing materials, your website copy, the fact that you can customize all of that to make it sound professional or business or casual, your own personal style, I think those are always tools that are very helpful as well.
Yeah, I'd say just start somewhere. So, if you're not using any of the tools, start with the text expander, because you'll get so much benefit from it and it's so easy. And then maybe try PerfectIt because it's user friendly, and then try Editor's Toolkit because it's good, but it's a bit less user friendly.
Hilary, and can you tell us quickly, I'm on your website right now, on what classes you have coming up, or any webinars, or are these the ones that we see here? And
So yes, at the moment, I should mention, so my course on PerfectIt is currently on PerfectIt 5. So what happens is, if you buy one of my courses, if I upgrade, like if I were to create one for PerfectIt 6, I can't actually, I've got PerfectIt 6, I can't see what's different about it from PerfectIt 5, to be honest. But if you buy one of my courses, if things upgrade, I always just put everybody on the next course. I don't charge people for upgrading. I haven't got, so my next project is to upgrade my course to PerfectIt 6. That's that. And yes, I will be running the word styles webinar again sometime. I think I'm going to do that as a regular thing every few months.
yes, that's such a great webinar. And then I'm seeing here that also you have an advanced PerfectIt, and you have an EndNote for editors. Is that correct?
Yeah, because it drove me mad that people well, all the EndNote training is for people using EndNote, when we're working with people who use EndNote. So yeah, if you again, that's for EndNote 20, I think, but and I've got now EndNote 25. There's not a lot of difference between the programs, like that. That works fine. You learn what you need to learn. Yeah, so I developed that one to help editors to actually, lots of editors just go in and break all the links, which is the worst thing you can do. They just want to break the links so that they can work on the document. So I do have a little free course on EndNote extras that explains why that's a bad idea and what you can do instead. Because I got fed up with being on social media and someone saying, oh, well, I'm working on a document, it's got EndNote, and someone else saying, oh, just press F9 or something to break all the links. I think no. So now I say to people, oh, in my little free, it's a 10-minute course, it's free, and it explains what to do if you're working with someone who uses EndNote.
Good. And then you have a YouTube channel too, correct?
Yes, with lots of tips, all my little tips.
Perfect. So I will look for that so I can put that
there's a link to that on the
perfect on the notes that everybody received. Excellent. Yes. So you have a YouTube channel, and she also has a newsletter. We talked about this morning during our marketing meetup, of what kind of newsletters we want to put out there if we ever decide to do newsletters, and how Hilary's is always great because it always has some valuable information.
I have to tell you something about that. For years, when I first started doing my courses, someone helped me and she said, you've got to have a newsletter. And I set up something in MailChimp. I never sent a newsletter. 7 years later, I'd still never sent a newsletter. So I had people signed up. I'd moved from MailChimp to MailerLite. I still hadn't sent a newsletter. And eventually I got a virtual assistant. She said, you need to send a newsletter. So we set it up. She helped me write the first one, saying, you might have said, you might have signed up for this some time ago, and here's your first newsletter. So Now I send
Yeah.
them reasonably regularly, but sending that first one was quite stressful and took me a long time to get around to it.
We were talking exactly about that this morning, so I'm glad you're validating what we were talking about how hard it is to do that and take the action, but how much it helps like so many people because everybody's learning about what's new and what courses you have. So excellent. So any other questions? Because we are kind of past the hour and I don't want to take up, Hilary probably wants to go have breakfast now and maybe take a nap too, an early morning nap. But Hilary, thank you so much for being with us today. This was wonderful. You've given us a lot to think about, a lot of things that we can take action on. We will be discussing this and what we talked about next week, probably here during our co-working session. So I'll reach out to you with some notes and with this recording as well. And
Okay. And I tell you what, I think that the link for the styles webinar, I don't think I've taken it down yet. So I'll check that and I'll send Linda, I'll send you.
Yeah, send it to me and I'll put it here in our circle space so that everybody can see that because that's excellent.
Yeah, I think I couldn't find it to take it down, so I think it's still there. I have
Yes,
trouble.
let us know. Wonderful. Thank you everyone for being here.
Okay.
Hilary, thank you again. And we
Very
hope
nice
to see everyone soon. Have a great rest of your day.
Thank you so
Okay.
much, Hilary.
Thank you.
Thank
Thanks.
you.
Bye.
Bye-bye.